Okay, YouTube, back again with another video, talking about the same topic because I think that this needs to be addressed as much as possible because people get biblical slavery wrong. And sometimes when I have conversations with unbelievers about this topic, I know they don't care about the truth. They don't want to believe. It's not because of Leviticus 25 verse 44 to 46, because they don't even take the time to go and check the rabbinic literature, to go and check the patristic literature. They don't take the time to even go and see what the commentaries are on these verses. They just read it and say, hey, chattel slavery, Christianity is evil, throw it all out. They don't care. So as soon as I realize that I'm talking to someone who doesn't care about the truth, the conversation is over. Your God's immorality is only one part of why I'm an atheist. Well, if you're an atheist, then you are a part of a group of people who believe that we all evolved from apes, which means that we have no inherent value, dignity, and worth. So could you tell me what's objectively wrong and why we ought not own slaves who are just evolved apes? Probably can't. Yeah. So hold on to your atheism as long as you want. You'll find out when you pass away. So atheism, nothing is objectively wrong. I have my own morality. Okay, perfect. So the people in the Bible who owned slaves, there was nothing wrong with it. Thank you so much for your time, buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's atheism for you guys. Every time you complain about slavery, every time you complain about a moral issue that is external to yourself, you contradict your own subjective worldview. Every single time. Atheism is a walking contradiction. But anyways, back to what I was saying. A lot of people read Leviticus 25 and they don't take the time to learn and try to understand the commentaries on these things because they don't care. There are literally people who have said, and I've heard a few of them say, I will never believe in God. Doesn't matter how good the arguments are, I'm never going to believe in God. And these people, as the Bible says, do not cast your pearls to swine. Let me see. Well, first you would have to prove your God, then prove objective morality, but I doubt you can do either. Let's just assume for the sake of argument, I can prove God and I can't prove objective morality. There is nothing wrong with slavery. Thank you so much for your concession. Thank you. There's nothing wrong with owning another animal and beating the animal and abusing the animal. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's atheism for you guys. Subjective morality. Every time you look at a moral issue and complain about it, you're just contradicting your worldview. Atheism is a walking contradiction. That's what it is. All right, so as I was saying, when you read the rabbinic literature and you look at all of the commentaries on the atheists' favorite passages. Goober, I can't even pronounce your name. Read the prompt. And nowhere in the prompt does it say that slavery is good. Nowhere in there does it say that. It says biblical slavery properly understood. If you want my opinion on slavery, I think slavery is evil. A human being owning another human being is evil. That's what I think about slavery. It's evil. It's an evil act to own another human being. All right, so let me open up my book here. I have to publish this book one day, definitely, so people can read it and understand the issue better. I'm not going to respond to any more comments, guys. If you want to have a conversation, come on up. Your comments are very distracting. I'm not going to respond to any more comments. All right, so opening up this book here. All right, so here's my first claim. Christians from the earliest centuries all the way up to the present, real, genuine Christians have always believed that slavery was evil. And in their culture, in a culture where slavery was a universal thing, they aimed for and aimed at slavery reduction. And I'm going to read 2 quotes here, and then I'm going to bring up our first guest to have a conversation. 2 quotes to verify my first claim, which is that Christians have always believed that slavery is an evil, and as we all know, we should always try our best to reduce as much evil as we can in this world. So Gregory of Nyssa in the 4th century, he says, "What do you mean by slavery? You condemn man to slavery when his nature is free and possesses free will, and you legislate for the one who was created in the image of God as if he were an animal. You have forgotten the limit of your authority, and you have become a tyrant over your fellow human being when you were given rule over the animals. How can you buy and sell someone who was created in the image of God? Slavery is an outrage against the image of God." That's Gregory of Nyssa. Last quote, and I'm quoting only 2 out of 21 quotes to show you evidence for my claim, historical evidence. "Slavery is a result of sin, not of nature. In the beginning, God did not make one man a slave and another free. He made all men free. But because of sin, slavery entered the world. Therefore, Christian masters should seek to reduce slavery as much as possible and treat their slaves with justice and fairness, remembering that both they and their slaves serve the same master in heaven." All right, I'm going to bring up our first guest to hear what he or she has to say about this particular topic. Hello? Anyone there?
Yeah, I'm not seeing my page. Are you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. What is your view on morality before you tell me if you're on slavery?
Subjective.
Okay, morality is subjective. Do you think that anyone should follow your moral preferences?
Not always.
All right, that's all I need to know. Go ahead. What's your objection on slavery or your understanding of slavery?
Yeah, so my understanding about slavery is that once it is immoral, then it should not be practiced under no circumstances or condition.
In a culture where slavery is universal and people had 3 options: prostitution, slavery, or starvation, would you say that some would choose slavery over death or starvation or prostitution?
Yeah, but not because they may choose it, that makes it right.
No. I'm not arguing for its rightness. You and I agree slavery is evil. We're just talking about the culture now. In a place where the culture has slavery as its universal thing for the economy, you have 3 options: prostitution, slavery, or starvation. Do you think that people would choose slavery?
Yeah, they would choose prostitution and also slavery for sure.
All right. So my argument is this: Christians have always believed that slavery was wrong, and we have historical documents pointing to the fact that in a culture where slavery was universal in Rome, Christians would do 2 things. Number 1, they would own slaves and provide a means for the slave to be independent and let them go free. Or they would buy slaves from abusive slave masters, provide a way for the slave to be independent, and then let the slave go. Would that be a good thing in a culture where slavery was universal?
Yeah, if your intention is to set them free, for sure.
Okay. That is what I'm defending here. That biblical slavery, properly understood with reference to Colossians 4 verse 1, it teaches that masters should treat their slaves with justice and fairness. All Christians from the first century all the way up to the 21st century, I have the quotes right here, believe that passage to mean this: to give a slave justice is to free the slave, but do it in a responsible way. Don't cast someone out and make them free when they have no means of protecting themselves or being on their own, because you would be putting them in a worse condition. So what the Christians would do is they would do what is called responsible manumission. Let the slave go free after you have provided a way for them to be independent. And you and I would say that's a good thing. And that's what Christians have always done throughout the centuries.
Oh, well, that's not what we see happen in the Caribbean. That's not what we see happen in the trade slave mission. You know. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is this: we have hypocritical people who claim to be Christian throughout the centuries, and someone who says they are a Christian doesn't mean they are. The same way, if I were to look at the atheistic regimes that have been throughout history, names I can't mention, but people who were in charge of the Soviet Union, Germany, Cambodia, Korea, who unalived over 100 million people in their atheistic regimes. I can't look at them and then say every atheist is a murderous maniac. That would be called the logical fallacy of hasty generalization, where you take a group of people and you judge the entire group by the actions of some. The same way you and I as Jamaicans, we would have never go on barber shop and the barber man cut we here now and by the way I always say, yo, every barber can't cut here because one barber must up me head. They get me?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
So it's fallacious reasoning.
Yeah, but we know that some of the Willie Lynch. You ever read about Willie Lynch?
I have his book, but I haven't read it. This guy was known as the person who taught people how to break their slaves. Yeah.
So and he was actually a Christian. But I would really, 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 really love for you to take up that book one day and read that book. That man that wrote that book, Willie Lynch, he's actually a Christian man.
I would look at Willie Lynch and say that he would be condemned to hell if he did not repent. The same way that people in the earliest centuries would say this. Look at this, for example, Augustine of Hippo. He says these words in the 4th century, because these things used to happen in the 1st century. You who are called Christian, if you treat your slave with excessive cruelty or deny him justice and fairness, you are living in contradiction. You say you serve a merciful master, yet you show no mercy. This is hypocrisy before God. Remember that you too are a servant, and your master in heaven will judge you according to your measure that you have used. Many Christian leaders have condemned so-called Christians who abuse their slaves. Augustine of Hippo and others. And I have literally 31 quotes here that show Christian leaders all the way up to councils who condemned evil actions of people who claim to be Christians who abuse their slaves. So we can't judge the entire nation or entire group from the actions of one man, Willie Lynch. The same way I can't look at the Soviet Union like Stalin and say he was an atheist and he killed a lot of people. Therefore, you, the atheist, if you are an atheist, you are a killer as well. That's fallacious reasoning, Tupac. Tupac, I think you're muted and you don't know what's going on there.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. So my argument is that you make a claim that Christians actually support buying slave and set them for free.
Yep.
All right. No, we have tons of evidence. We have tons of information that make that claim not an absolute truth claim. We have Willie Lynch as an example. We have George Ford, which is another slave owner, which was a Christian. We have so much of them. Right? We have one of the United States president. I don't want to call his name, but we have quite a few, bro. That was actually a Christian that actually uphold slavery.
All right, I'm gonna test your logic, Tupac, because you sound like a very intelligent man. I'm gonna test your logic. If someone says that he is a heterosexual, a man says he's a heterosexual, but he occasionally has sex with men, is he telling the truth?
No.
One last example. Someone says they are a Christian pastor, but he likes to put together in a marriage union 2 men and 2 women. Is he telling the truth?
Well, that's not a question to be answered whether a truth or not, right? That is more of a question where you make a statement, right? That's not a question. So if you're gonna ask me a question, I would appreciate if you ask me a direct question, not with a statement included.
All right. Do you think that someone who says they are a Christian in that they believe the faith where stealing is wrong, but every day they steal, is that individual a true Christian?
Well, no, I wouldn't say they are
All
a
right.
true Christian.
All right. See,
But
I knew you were a
think
logical
stealing-
person. See, I knew.
I don't think stealing is absolutely wrong. They have scenarios or instances where stealing can actually be beneficial.
Well, in my worldview, stealing is wrong every single time. But I just wanted to point something out. If you point to 1 man, 2 men, a group of people, and you say, hey, they did this, therefore all Christians are this way, it is called the logical fallacy of hasty generalization. It's a logical fallacy.
Yeah, I know it's a logical fallacy. But I was not making that argument. You actually said it. And I'm showing you where the distinction comes in. Right? You actually said it. That Christians, you did not say some. You make the generalization by saying Christians do buy slaves and then they turn around and set them free. So the contradiction is in your argument, not my one.
All right, let me address that. When I say Christians, I'm making an identity claim, which means that if I say this, and I'm making a broad brush claim, Christians do X. What I'm doing is I'm also making a negation, which means that if Christians don't do X, they're not Christians. So let's use the example. Christians don't believe that homosexual marriage is holy and righteous in the eyes of God, which means that if someone if someone claims to be a Christian and they believe that, then they are not a Christian. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying, but so if I tell you that I'm a Christian, who for you to tell me that I am not a Christian?
The Bible, well, I wouldn't right away say you're not a Christian. The Bible says that you will know them by their fruits. So what I would do is, before I make any judgments about you, is I would try to get to know you. What do you do? What kind of person are you? And through the phone right now, I couldn't make a determination even then. But what I'm trying to point out is this. Jesus Christ, in John chapter 7, verse 24, he says, judge righteous judgment. And the Bible also says, pick the beam out of your eye before you pick the log out of anybody else's eye. And the Bible also says that you should judge according to what the person does. So if I claim to be a Christian and I'm doing everything that is non-Christian, the Bible gives every Christian the go-ahead. Hey, look, that's a fake Christian, or that's a true Christian. So I have the go-ahead to look at people who claim to be Christians and say, hey, I love to see 2 men kissing and 2 men getting married, or I love to own slaves and abuse them. Those are not Christians.
I like the way you're going with this, and I like the way you're communicating. And I'm going to ask you one question based on your Christian narrative. Are there any one absolute Christian where you can point to and say, yes, this person is an absolute Christian. This person uphold all the requirement what it requires to be a Christian. Are there anyone?
If your question is there an individual who keeps the faith perfectly? No, there's no one who does that perfectly.
Okay,
There's no one.
exactly. So that is my point. That's what I'm saying. So if there's no one who are 100% Christian, who have the authority or the right to judge? So that means your book wrong again.
Let me respond to that, because what the objection you brought up, anyone who reads Christian theology knows the answer, and it is this. The Bible makes a distinction between a Christian and a non-Christian with reference to the Greek word poieo, which means to practice. in that in 1 John chapter 3, the Bible says, whoever practices sin is not of God, nor is the truth of God in him. And that word is the definitional phrase that is used in the ancient world for habit, habitual, something you do on a daily, something you consistently do. Paul says in Romans chapter 6, how can we who have passed away to sin still live in it any longer? There's a big distinction between someone who says they are a Christian and someone who pretends to be a Christian. And I'm going to give you an illustration. One last illustration. I can say I'm a Christian because I habitually follow righteousness and I occasionally stumble. That's a Christian. But somebody who does the opposite, they habitually sin and occasionally does righteous things. That's not a Christian. So the Bible actually makes a distinction in that you don't have to be perfect to go to heaven.
Can you repeat, please? I think you're going a little bit too fast. Can you please repeat what you just said?
Sorry. Someone who habitually sins, the Bible says they are not a Christian. But someone who habitually practices righteousness, the Bible identifies as a Christian. There's no such thing as a perfect Christian. That is why the gospel is so powerful, in that you believe in Christ and his deeds are perfect for you and you go to heaven on account of him, not on account of your works.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So that means you can be a Christian but sin at the same time, but you can't sin all the time and do some good things and consider being a Christian.
You are identified as a Christian by the church if your life shows a continual practice of repentance and turning away from sin and struggling against sin. Something like slavery, which is very open, something like slavery, which is very visible. If someone claims to be a Christian in those days and they owned slaves without any intention of providing a way for the slave to be free independently, the church would do what is called excommunication of that individual. We see this in the writings of Constantine, the writings of the church fathers, in that this was literally rules in the government of Rome after Christianity became legal in 380 AD by Theodosius I. Excommunication. And it happens today, where in my church, if there is a man who's married to a woman and we find out that he has a girl on the side, we're going to warn him and say, hey, you have to stop this. But if he says, no, I'm not going to stop it, we're going to bring him before the church board and we're going to excommunicate him. That's how we do it in church.
Okay, so a person can sin by their thoughts, right?
Yes, they can.
Okay, so that is one of the most subtle way a person can ever sin. Because, I think by your thoughts, I think no one can control their thoughts, right? I think thoughts are so intangible in a way where no one can determine what you're going to think next. So if so be the case, how can you control how you're going to think? Therefore, if you can't control how you're going to think and what you're going to think, therefore you actually sin by your worldview or definition each and every day.
I can respond to that too. The Bible tells us that in Romans chapter 12, that we should continually renew our mind by the word of God. You can't control what you think, but you can control the frequency of what you think. Whatever you fill your mind with is going to be what you dwell on mostly. So if every day you get up and you read the Bible, every day you get up and you listen to gospel music, every day you get up and you try to evangelize, as I am doing right now, and you fill your day with the things of God, it doesn't matter what is around you. You are going to have dominating in your head the things of God. And occasionally think about things that are wrong. Again, which goes back to the practicing of righteousness and the practicing of unrighteousness, which distinguishes Christians from non-Christians. So back to the slavery issue. A Christian, someone who claims to be a Christian, we call them nominal Christians. People who only say they're Christians in name. We have a lot of those in Jamaica, bro, because Jamaica is seen as a Christian country. But not everybody in Jamaica is a Christian. You have nominal Christians, people who say, I'm just Christian in that I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe the Bible, but I don't really do any of the religious stuff. Those aren't Christians. And we have had that problem in the church from the first century onward, where people pretended to be Christians for gain or for status or for things of that nature. Because after Christianity became legal, bro, in 313 AD, and then it became the legal tradition, the religion of the state, anybody who was a bishop, they had a lot of benefits, man. So an ambitious man could become a bishop and get all kinds of benefits. And that is when the church opened the door for evil and wickedness.
What are the requirements to be a Christian?
You repent of your sins, trust in Jesus Christ for forgiveness and eternal life, and you confess him as Lord of your life and live according to his word. That's the requirement for being a Christian. Anything short of that, bro, you're not a Christian.
Okay, so if I am person, so what if a person is a Muslim, right? A person who is a Muslim accept Jesus Christ.
Sorry, are you still speaking? If someone is a Muslim and they accept Jesus Christ, can they be saved? If that's your question, yes, they can be saved, but they would have to leave Islam, believe in the true Jesus, and they would be saved. And since I have a little bit of silence here, Rich, you said that. Hold on. I'm gonna say something to Rich. Rich said that, but atheists don't have rules for slavery. Well, Rich, atheists have no rules, and that's the problem. That's why atheistic regimes could have done so many evil things throughout the centuries by unaliving over 100 million people. But I'm not gonna say that all atheists are evil now, because that would be fallacious reasoning. That's why Tupac stopped reasoning in that way, because he's smart. He's very smart. There are no rules in atheism. It's a negation of God's existence. There are no rules. There are no rules. You guys believe that we are all animals. All animals. Apes. Evolved. Apes. We have no inherent value. Only value that the culture and the society gives us, which means it can take it away anytime. But anyways, scratch that. Tupac, you said if a Muslim confesses Jesus Christ as Lord, if that happens, bro, they are saved. They are saved.
Okay. Yeah, I got a call when I was talking just now. So, I mean, I'm an atheist, right? I'm an agnostic atheist. I don't believe in a God. However, I also don't know for sure if there is or isn't a God from a knowledge claim.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I see too much contradiction to, lead me to any beliefs. And knowledge, I don't have absolute knowledge, therefore I don't know if there is a God.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop me from doing what is righteousness. That doesn't stop me from doing what is good.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I don't see what you do that I'm not doing in terms of, goodness.
And I can commend you. And any Christian who tells you that you can't be good without God, or you can't know right from wrong without the Bible, they're inaccurate. They're wrong. You can do good things without the Bible. You can do good things without being a Christian. You can do good things. You can be good. We never say, or any Christians, you should never say that atheists can't be good people. I know a lot of good people who are atheists. Better than me. The argument is, what is the basis for your goodness? Why ought you do kind things? Why ought you? Let's use this example, Tupac. Why ought John Doe not own slaves and beat them every day?
No, let's speak about me and you right now in terms of morality, right? So I think we can have
all
a
right.
better understanding.
All right, let's use me and you. Why ought I not own slaves and beat them every day?
Yeah, so I think right now, because owning slave is illegal, that is maybe one of the reasons why you are not doing it.
People break the law every day. Couldn't I break the law and own slaves and beat them? Why ought I not do that?
Yeah, if you trust me, if you ever think about doing that right now, you wouldn't even be only breaking the law. You would actually, find yourself behind some closed doors.
Let's push it back. Let's push it back some more. I go to the Congo, where they own slaves illegally over there in masses, and I own a slave and I beat the slave every day. Why ought I not do that?
Wait, in Congo?
Yeah.
They actually have slaves in Congo right now?
Yes, illegally though. Illegally. They're not supposed to do it.
Okay.
Illegally.
I don't know about that. I only speak about things that I actually know about.
All right. So you know about it now. You know about it. I'm trying to test your logic on morality.
I don't know about it. You tell me that doesn't make me know it.
All right. Let's say for the sake of argument, hypothetically, there's a place in the world where slavery is legal. I go over there, I own a slave, and I beat the slave every day with a sledgehammer. Why ought I not do that in your worldview?
Why you're not doing that? Why you're not doing it? First of all...
No, wait. Why ought I not do it? Why ought? Note that word. Ought. Ought.
Okay. So the reason why you men not doing it, right, is it's simple because we are not in that time frame anymore, right? It's illegal. That's one.
So are you saying that if it was legal, I could do it?
Of course, people. What about Willie Lynch? Willie Lynch did it. Willie Lynch was a preacher.
Okay. So is your argument this? If it's legal, go right ahead and do it. Does legality, in your worldview, does legality determine morality? If it's legal, it's good.
No.
Okay, so I want to know what determines morality then. If it's not legality determines morality, what is it? Why should I not do it?
No, so morality would determine by, I would say, what works best for our group or our culture.
What works best? Okay, so utilitarianism. Yes. Utilitarianism. Okay, so hypothetically,
that's correct. Yeah.
Hypothetically, because this was, what I read in the philosophy books when I read about utilitarianism. You have a brother, and your brother was with you at 5 a.m. You remember everything. You were awake with your brother. You were having a conversation, having drinks, etc. And all of a sudden, people break into your house, take your brother, and you're like, what's going on? And they say, we saw him stealing from the supermarket at 5 a.m. You're like, wait, my brother was with me. What are you talking about? He said, no, we saw him. And 20 people against you, the one, think that your brother did the deed, but it wasn't him because you know that he was with you. But they don't believe you, so the majority thinks that it is right to unalive your brother, and by unaliving your brother, they will have justice. If they don't unalive your brother, you will have justice. So one person gets justice if your brother isn't unalived, and 20 people get justice if your brother is unalived by their deception. Who's right?
Yeah, so again, whatever works best for the group.
Okay, so you would have your brother unalived.
No. I'm gonna adjust that.
Okay.
I'm gonna adjust that. No, in a situation like that, what would work best for the group is life preservation. Life preservation. So, for instance, they saw my brother steal, and whatever works best for our group or community would be life preservation. They would have my brother work and pay back whatever they think my brother life worth. Right? So if my brother was supposed to lose his life because they thought he takes something that wasn't his, then if he had to work for another 5 years just to preserve his life, that would be the better thing for the community.
Oh, great.
That would be, if not, what if we constantly repeat that same trajectory? What would happen to all human beings?
I am giving you a hypothetical to test your logic. In that culture, bro, the 20 people want justice, and justice in their view is your brother being unalived. Now remember, your brother was with you at the time they saw someone steal from the supermarket. It's not your brother. You know it's not your brother. But the majority, according to utilitarianism, if the majority gets the benefit, the utility of the act, then the act should be done. It's the same thing for we unalive one person, take their organs, and save 5 people. There will be nothing wrong with that in utilitarianism. Are you going to be consistent?
Again, brother. If whatever they're doing does not serve the community has to do with life preservation. That is what upholds a community.
Okay.
Life preservation. If unaliving one will deteriorate the purpose of life preservation, then no, that is not morality.
All right. I see the standard now.
That is immorality.
All right.
So when I said life preservation, it is not coming from a biased perspective where one lose and one gain.
All right.
It is a holistic view that everyone holds. So even those who wanted to unalive my one brother would have the understanding that, listen, life preservation has to base on morality. So they would know. They wouldn't have tried to unalive my brother.
All right, let's use that. Let's use life preservation as the standard. What is it that decides that life preservation is the thing that should be sought for all the time, universally, and by all?
Yeah, so I would appeal to, that's a good question. So I would appeal to our understanding and our consciousness to survive through an evolutionary perspective.
So desire to survive.
I would appeal, and I would appeal to evolution.
Desire to survive is the thing that determines that life preservation should be sought for. Did I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. In a scenario where someone has the option, no option, where he has to, in order for him to survive, he has to unalive someone else. Is he wrong?
In what situation? Because that's a complicated question. That's an ambiguous question.
Okay, let me try to clear it up some more.
No. In what situation are you talking about?
All right, let me be specific. Two men are on an island. Mm-hmm. Two men are on an island, and both of them find coconut water, and both of them are parched. They're thirsty, and if either one of them don't drink the coconut water, they are going to pass away from dehydration. But it can only be given to one. In order for John Doe to survive, he has to unalive Michael Jones. He unalives Michael Jones. Survival is what determines preservation of life. Is John Doe wrong for unaliving Michael Jones?
So again, technically, whether unalive him or not, one would actually have to die. So that's why I said I appeal to evolution and also survival. However, the one who unalive the next one, yes, we would actually wrong to unalive the next one.
All right.
Because life preservation comes first. And why? Because the moment he unalive one, a big shower rain could fall, he could get some water, or they could stumble upon some other coconut tree or whatever the case is. So that's why I mentioned in the first place, like evolution is what actually appeals to when it comes to the last common denominator of survival.
You also said that this is held by everyone. Everyone holds this view where life preservation is the standard and should be the standard.
Yes, it should be. Yeah.
Have you heard of natural selection?
Yes, in evolution, yes.
All right. Are you aware that the mechanism of natural selection is the mechanism of elimination?
Yeah, the fittest of the fittest survive, in other words.
All right, so the survival of the fittest.
Yeah, yes.
All right, how is the concept of evolution gave us the notion and understanding that life preservation is the standard, when the very process of evolution is survival of the fittest, meaning if you're not the fittest, you should be removed or replaced. How is that not counterproductive?
That should be removed, but leave behind.
Laid behind. Okay, so yes. If you leave behind something, a life form that is not the fittest, how is that preservation of life?
Yeah, so again, I'm going to give an example. Mm-hmm. You and your mother, and you have another brother which were born crippled. He born with no legs, no arms, nothing, right? Now you can walk, you can run, your sister can walk, your sister can run, and your mother can do all of that. Now, there's a big fire break out in your house. Your mother can only save herself. and save one of you guys, which is you, or she could save the one with no legs. Which one you think your mom should save? You or the one with no legs?
Which one do I think she should save? Well,
yes, you that has 2 legs or the one that has no legs and no arms? Which one?
I'm going to give you the answer, but I want to qualify the answer before I give it.
Sure.
Any one of us that my mother chooses to save, it being up to her, if she has no other option, I think she would choose the one with no legs and no arms.
And leave the one to burn with 2 legs and 2 arms.
The reason why I say that is because the one with 2 legs and 2 arms has more agency than the one without arms and without legs.
Yeah, so in that case, she would definitely save the fittest of the fittest. That is our brain program. Our brain literally wired.
No, that's actually the opposite of what I just said. I said she would save the one without arms and legs because the one with arms and legs could probably save himself, more agency.
No, so again, that's why I'm saying she only had 2 options. She only had 1 option to save out of 2 persons.
So she saved the least fittest, the one without arms and legs.
I guarantee you she would not save the least fittest. She would try to save the one that has potential. That is how life works. That is how evolution works. Evolution is all about the fittest of the fittest.
Okay. So I don't think that you can actually prove what she would choose. You asked me the question and I told you what she would choose. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, since your worldview is based on survival of the fittest, what is wrong with unaliving people with cancer? Because the mustache man had that view, survival of the fittest, and he viewed people with deformities and people who were Jewish people. They were not as fit as blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin, tall, strong. So he unalived them because his worldview was based on we have to maintain the strongest of our race, which is blonde hair, blue eyes, strong, tall, fit. What's wrong with him unaliving those people?
Yeah, so what's wrong with him unaliving those people? Because there is no predisposal that pushes him to do anything like that, right? It's not like there is, like I said, my worldview is life preservation. So once he take away a life deliberately, that is an automatic wrong. So what's wrong about it? Because he tried to depopularize human being.
But wait, do you realize how? Do you realize how I'm steel manning your worldview? Where I'm literally pointing out to you, where the perspective of the mustache man was this: we have to preserve the fittest, therefore we are going to unalive the not so fit. How is that not consistent with your worldview?
Yeah, so I did not say the person who has no legs and no arms should be unalived by anyone. I made the scenario that person is in danger, not danger by another human being.
But I changed the scenario now. I'm using the mustache man.
You change it to fit your own narrative by adding an opponent where that person is actually the one doing the unaliving.
Actually, no, I changed it so that I can test your logic to see if you're going to be consistent.
I am consistent.
The mustache man unalives people who he think are not the fittest so that he could preserve the fittest. That is what you said evolution does.
But it's not evolution, my brother.
All right. So you are committing what is called the reification fallacy, which is fallacious reasoning. You know what that is?
I understand what you're saying, but I don't see what law I violate in logics right now.
It's called the fallacy of reification, where you are ascribing personal qualities to a concept or an impersonal object.
No, you're doing it because you're making the reference that man unaliving such and such. I am saying No one should unalive anyone. However, evolution is all about the fittest of the fittest. Mankind should not act upon any information or any what do you call it? Anything to have them unalive anyone else. We should not act upon our impulse. We should preserve life.
Wait.
To the best of our knowledge.
Everyone on YouTube, I want you to look up the word reification fallacy. I'm going to ask you some questions, Tupac. Some questions. Does evolution decide who the fittest will be and decide who the not so fit will be?
No.
What decides it?
What decided?
Yeah.
Your genetics.
Your genetics. So your genetics decide who will be fit and who will not be fit.
Your genetic decide, if you have two brothers.
All right. Are genetics personal entities or impersonal entities?
They're not. Repeat it.
Are genetics personal entities or impersonal entities?
They're impersonal.
Okay. So an impersonal entity can decide who will be the fittest and who will not be the fittest, right?
Yeah. So.
All right. That's the reification fallacy. That's the reification fallacy. You are engaging in fallacious reasoning right now to defend your worldview.
And where is the error?
The error is when you ascribe personal qualities to an impersonal entity. This is a book. It's not personal. I can't say that my book is going to walk over to my table. That would be committing the reification fallacy. You just did that.
I don't see what you're talking about.
All right, let me try to explain better. When you ascribe personal qualities to an object that is characteristically non-personal, you commit fallacious reasoning called reification fallacy.
Yeah, but I don't see how I commit that fallacy though.
You just did, because I asked you, does genetics decide something is a personal attribute, to decide something is a personal quality? You said that genetics, an impersonal thing, an impersonal substance, decides who will be fit and who will not. That's a reification fallacy.
Yeah, so like again, evolution, brother, right? Determined by a lot of different factors.
Okay, so what is the thing that determines evolution that is not going to end up with you committing the reification fallacy?
There's no thing that determines evolution. Evolution is an independent concept that's driven. It's an independent concept that's driven. And once you're alive, you will everything that is alive has to go through an evolutionary process.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now is that, because I think I've already established the fallacy. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to talk about evolution for a bit. We'll talk about evolution because I think that it's important for this conversation for us to actually flush out what we mean by evolution. Do you believe in abiogenesis, that life came from non-life?
Yeah, of course. There are tons of evidence that point to life coming from non-living biochemistry.
All right. Are you aware of any lab experiment and lab results that proved the hypothesis that life came from non-life? And if you do have that, can you tell me where it is?
No, I don't have one at hand. But we can look into the U-regular experiment. That is also a great way of understanding abiogenesis. And as well, we can use deductive reasoning, and also logical reasoning to come to that conclusion that all living things as we know it today come from non-living biochemistry.
All right. So would you say that... Wait. Hold on. I want to pull this up here. The origin of life. Okay. So is this your understanding of life coming from non-life? Evolution needs life to exist first, before mutations, before selection, before anything. Life has to exist. So Darwin says that life came from chemicals, abiogenesis, through natural processes. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I could hold that argument to be true, yeah.
Okay. What I'm going to show you is, do you believe that peer review documents are a reliable source of information?
Yeah, peer review is actually the last stage of a theory. So I agree that without a peer review is like the theory is not really substantiated.
Okay. So I have a practice of looking at what the peer review conclusions are about a particular thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be reading for you two things from the peer review
About what?
about the origin of life. About the origin of life. I don't want to read you the short quotes. I want to read you the long quotes so that we can both come to an understanding. Okay, so we have Leslie Orgel, a biochemist from the Salk Institute, quoting from Critical Reviews in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, 2004. This individual says, the prebiotic synthesis of nucleotides is problematic. The gap between... Hold on. Here. All right, sorry, a call came in. Sorry about that. A biochemist, Salk University. This individual says the prebiotic synthesis of nucleotides is problematic. The gap between chemistry and biology remains vast. Attempts to form RNA under prebiotic conditions have failed to produce self-replicating systems, and the stability issues make it impossible without guided processes. We have no viable model for how the first replicators formed. You said that there is evidence that you are aware of that the gap between chemistry and biology has been filled. Can you provide me with the evidence from peer review quotes or any individual that we can look up right now and see? Because I don't believe that life came from non-life, and that proposition is not supported by the actual evidence in peer review research.
What is your thoughts on life coming about?
My perspective on that is this. The claim that life came from non-life is an empirical claim, and all empirical claims must be backed by empirical evidence. So because there is no empirical evidence backing the claim that life came from non-life, we should not believe the proposition.
Okay, I agree. No, let's move to this other section. What empirical evidence do you have that God exists?
God's existence is not an empirical claim.
Oh, it's not. What is it?
It's a supernatural claim.
Oh, it's a supernatural claim. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
wait, before you ask, wouldn't you think it would be fair for me if I was making an empirical claim about God that I should give you empirical evidence? Wouldn't you say that would be fair?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. We're getting somewhere.
Of course.
It's a metaphysical claim. It's not a physical claim or empirical claim.
Yeah, okay, so it's a metaphysical claim, which is a branch of philosophy that deals with that of which is above beyond the physical. I think it is.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a metaphysical claim.
Right.
All right. No, you don't have any empirical evidence for that metaphysical claim. You only base that claim on logics and philosophy.
Actually, the way I prove God's existence is based on transcendental categories, like the existence of laws of logic, the existence of objective truth, the existence of immaterial things that we all say are true and are real, like consciousness. Consciousness is not a thing that we can touch, feel, or see, but we all agree that consciousness exists and laws of logic.
For something to be real, what are the method or the metrics you use to determine if something is real?
I would say that there is not one way to distinguish between that which is real and that which is false. If I say that there's only one way, I would say that we prove things or the truthfulness of things, the realness of things, by using transcendental reasoning and empirical analysis and evidence.
Okay, so for something to be real, you need transcendental argument to prove that it's real. That's what you're saying?
I'm saying that that is one of the ways that we can show or prove that something is real. And let me show you for example. Are you absolutely certain that you exist?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever heard of the Cartesian argument? I think, therefore I am.
Yes.
Have you read the critiques from Cornelius Van Til? Sorry, not Cornelius Van Til. Immanuel Kant and Bertrand Russell. Have you read their critiques of that claim?
No.
All right. I'm going to give you one critique, and you tell me if this makes sense. In Descartes' perspective, he views that there's a distinction between appearance and substance. Appearance and substance. Appearance is that which you can't see, you can't experience. Substance is that which you can see and you can experience. And he viewed that I think, therefore I am, the I am he thought was a substance. He thought that he was a thinking substance. Now, in order for something to be a substance, it has to be an object of your experience, is his perspective. The only way for Descartes to have proved that he actually exists as a thinking substance would be for him to step outside of his consciousness and view the I am, look at the I am, and the I am then becomes a part of or an object of his existence or his experience. Because that was not done by Descartes, Van Til and Bertrand Russell said that he is assuming that he exists, but he has not proven that he absolutely exists.
Yeah, so ones don't need to prove that they exist, because exist is already the proof that you actually exist, right? That is oxymoron. So it is. So if I say to you, how do you know that you exist, Adrian?
Uh-huh.
You must have existed in the first place for me to even ask you that question, isn't it?
Actually, in my worldview, yes, but in your worldview, I could be a figment of your imagination.
No, you can't speak about my worldview, but I just gave you a clear understanding of what exists mean, and I think I did a great job by explaining that to you.
Let me tell you why I made a distinction. In my worldview, there is a ultimate unifying principle that unifies all the particulars in a set of reality. That's God. In a worldview without God, everything is random and everything is just an accident. So it is very possible in your worldview, which is not the Christian one, for me to be a figment of your imagination.
No, but what is my worldview?
You said that you're an atheist, agnostic.
Okay, so what is an atheist?
An atheist is an individual who, one of two things, either denies the existence of God or lacks belief in a God.
Yes, so if I lack belief in a God, right, does that mean that I am not who I am? Does that mean that I am not present? Does that mean that I am not No, it
doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you cannot prove with the standard of measure that you accept in your worldview, which is empirical evidence. You cannot prove with absolute certainty that you exist using the scientific method. Because you and I well know, because I'm assuming that you are, very read in science and very well read in the scientific method. The scientific method is based on induction. And induction does not and can never produce absolute certainty about anything. It can only provide a high likelihood of probability, not certainty. Because if it was certainty, then you couldn't be wrong about it. You couldn't be wrong. That is why science, as you well know, is provisional. It is open for revision. It is open for change because it's based on induction. You agree what I just said?
Yeah, yes, I 100%.
All right. So if you use that method, I'm not saying that that's what you're using, but if you're using that method to prove your existence, because the method itself can't provide you with absolute certainty, if you use that, you can't know that you absolutely certainly exist. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, sir. Yeah, so I mean,
so you'd have to use something else.
You're appealing to solipsism. To that, yeah. I think you're appealing to solipsism with that kind of argument.
I think that is a problem for atheists because they have their standard based in the scientific method, which can't give them certainty about anything. That's why most atheists say, I don't have absolute certainty about anything. And some would even say not even their own existence. And that is delusional.
I think that is also fair to say that, there is no absolute unless it's going to be zero, I think. Right?
All right. So are you absolutely certain about your existence then?
Like I said, the only one thing I'm certain about that I am who I am.
All right. And what is the method that you use to ascertain that you absolutely exist? Is it the scientific method?
Because I am thinking.
Okay, so that is not the scientific method, right?
You can appeal to science by saying that because you're thinking, therefore you are within existence, or you are alive, or whatever the case may be.
I'm gonna use an analogy here so that you can get I understand what I'm saying. I cannot lift 400 pounds. I've tried many times. I can't do it. I can't lift 400 pounds. But if me and my brother try to lift 400 pounds, it's going to come off the ground. It is going to come off the ground. So let's use two standards now. The standard of me going into the gym and trying to lift the 400 pounds off the ground, is it going to come off the ground?
There's a great possibility, yeah.
No, I'm telling you, I cannot do it. I have too many back pains, too many injuries. I can't do it. I've tried many times. It cannot happen.
Okay.
Right. So if I go in there, it's not going to happen. But if me and my brother go in there, it is going to happen. Okay. So let's use those two things. Example number one, I go into the gym by myself. I don't have absolute certainty. Example number two, I go into the gym with my brother. I do have absolute certainty. Those are two different standards, two completely different standards. So that means if you say that science does not provide you with absolute certainty, which is true, that's the very methodology of science itself. And then you say that methodology is what you use to get absolute certainty, you are conflating two things.
No. Again, you see, that's why you're twisting up the strawman in my argument incorrectly again. So, I mean, if you and your brother go into the gym, there's still not as 100% certainty that you guys are going to lift that weight up off the ground.
Okay, so you're jumping on the analogy now. I was trying to prove a point.
But I'm saying you're trying to prove a point, but listen, I'm not going to have you cook me here while you're just trying to prove a point. I'm going to show you where your argument can be incorrect as well.
All right.
Right? So your brother can suffer from immediate back pain right away, right? That causes him not to be able to lift up that pound with you as well. So there are not the different scenarios we can actually look into. But absolute certainty, I don't agree with that because I don't think anyone has any absolute knowledge. Therefore, that's why I make the claim that I'm an agnostic. I don't know for sure if God exists or not.
All right.
I'm not gonna say, yeah, go for it.
No, go ahead. I was saying all right as in I'm agreeing with you. I'm just listening.
So because of that, I'm not gonna make an absolute claim to say I know for sure God don't exist or I know for sure God do exist. Right? I'm not gonna do that. However, from a belief perspective, which is from a belief perspective, I'm gonna say I don't believe. Why? Because there's so much contradiction in the book that tells me to believe.
All right. So let me try to help you understand something if you don't already know it, because I never try to say that people don't know something. I always ask before I make the assumption. So, are you aware of the problem of induction in the scientific method?
Yeah, I understand what it. Yeah, not to a full degree, but I do understand how it all started.
All right. So the reason why I brought that up is this. David Hume, an atheist, he wrote in one of his books. I forgot the name of the book. I'm gonna have to look it up again. He says that it has to be believed. The inductive principle or the uniformity of nature has to be a belief that every scientist has in order for them to do the methodology of science. Because you and I would agree, science is a methodology. It's a way of doing things. It's not a thing where we can say, hey, science says. No, scientists say things. Science doesn't say anything. Science is a methodology. The methodology, in order for it to be practiced, there has to be a belief about nature that the scientific method itself can't prove. And that is the uniformity of nature. So if someone says, Tupac, I will only believe something if it has empirical evidence, I will only believe something if it is shown by the scientific method, they are showing what is called a fallacy of special pleading. Because on the one hand, you don't claim scientific evidence for the belief that you have, but on the other hand, you claim scientific evidence for the Christian or an individual who believes something else.
Yeah, so let's see the word. Look, let's understand the word belief. You know, it simply means to hold something to be true. Now, if to hold something to be true, that's why I like the way you said it. Science is a methodology, right? The moment you prove what you hold to be true, there is no there's no need to believe in it anymore. That becomes knowledge. Right now, if you are saying that you have, for instance, that's hypothetical. You believe that you have proteins in your urine because when you pee, you see it's foamed a lot in the bathroom. Right? That's using a hypothetical. No, that is your belief. Your belief does not make it true or false. That is just a belief you have. No, the moment you go and do a test and you realize that there is actual protein in your urine, that now would not become a belief. That is not a belief anymore. That is knowledge.
Okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. So the moment you don't need to believe. Like if another analogy, you know, you and your wife, you know, do certain activities and she get pregnant. You believe it's a boy, but not until you do that test you're gonna know for sure it is a boy or girl.
All right, so
believe is just to hold something to be true.
All right, I get what you're saying. You're talking about the philosophical definition of knowledge, which is called justified true belief, JTB, where you hold a belief, you are justified in holding that belief because you have evidence, and the belief is true because it corresponds to reality. In both of those analogies you just gave me, you appealed to an empirical methodology to verify the justification of the belief and the truthfulness of the belief. Both of them. The first one was you see foam in the pee, you go and get a test, and you see you have proteins in the pee. The other one was with pregnancy. You believe that she's pregnant, but until you got the test, you were not justified in, having knowledge. So after those two things were justified, you no longer believe it, you have knowledge. I agree with you, totally. I agree with you. I just disagree with the exclusivity of the methodology that you use as an atheist or agnostic, where as an agnostic or an atheist, in order for you to hold something to be true or say you know it, it has to have empirical verification. But that contradicts the very methodology of science itself, because the methodology is based on something that science cannot prove empirically, and that is induction. It is a contradictory worldview and perspective.
Like what? Like what in science? Like what? Give me an example.
All right. So the uniformity of nature, or the inductive principle that science is based on, simply says this: the future will resemble the past. The future will resemble the past. That is a belief.
Where science says that?
That what?
Where in science? What scientist says that?
What scientist says that? Okay. I'm going to tell you what scientist says that. The uniformity of nature is something that is believed by the scientific community. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you quotes from scientists. Uniformity.
Yeah, I'm not appealing to quotes. I am appealing to peer-reviewed or even an hypothesis.
Before I give you the quotes, I'm going to say it again. The uniformity of nature is the belief that the future will resemble the past. In order for you,
science does not work with beliefs, my brother.
Okay, now that's where you're wrong. You're going to learn something today. Are you aware of the philosophy of science?
Yeah, well, philosophy and science work hand in hand. They both work together.
Are you aware that the methodology of the scientific method is a philosophy? Are you aware of that?
I understand that science and philosophy, they work hand in hand.
They work hand in hand. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you, are you aware that science, the methodology itself, is based as its foundation philosophy? Not work hand in hand.
No. It does not base on philosophy. They works hand in hand. It's like they both work together, like right hand and left hand, make your body in balance. Okay. So if you cut your right hand off, you would be more imbalanced. Or if you cut your left hand off, you're more imbalanced. They're not, they work hand in hand. They work together like a balance.
All right, so I'm going to tell you what they are. Here are the philosophical principles that science is based on. Philosophical principles. Uniformity of nature, causality, the reliability of our senses, the reliability of language and communication, and the existence of a coherent self. These are all philosophical principles that science is based on.
Yeah, so when you talk about reasoning, you talk about philosophy, right? And in order to come to certain conclusion in science, you must have reasoning, and reasoning is what you're talking about when you're talking about philosophy. So of course, they work hand in hand, but then there are two different words, two different meanings.
All right, I think the only way that you're gonna actually get this is if you actually look this up on your own right now. Are you able to look something up on your own right now?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I want you to type in, does the scientific method have as its foundation philosophy? Just look that up.
Has its foundation in philosophy?
Is science based on the foundation of philosophy?
Hold on, I'm going to let you talk it into my hair. 1 second. I'm going to go after I count to 3. 1 second. 1, 2, 3.
Is the scientific method based on...
Is it on your mind or what you want to talk about?
All right, are you... Can you hear me, ChatGPT?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear. If you have something you want to ask or discuss, I'm all ears.
I'm going to ask you a question about science. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Feel free to ask your science question. I'm ready to help out however I can.
Is the scientific method based on as its foundation in philosophy?
That's a great question. So in a broad sense, sound is a mechanical wave that travels through a medium.
Oh, no, you heard me wrong. Is science based on philosophy as its foundation? ChatGPT.
I see what you're getting at. From a philosophical perspective, sound can be really intriguing because...
Hold on, let me ask it.
Tupac, you're going to have to ask it.
Yeah, repeat the question, please.
Is the scientific method based on philosophy as its foundation?
Is the scientific method based on philosophy in its foundation?
Yes, it is. The scientific method really grew out of philosophical thinking, especially from empiricism and rationalism. Philosophers like Aristotle, Bacon, and Descartes laid a lot of groundwork, emphasizing observation, logic, and testing ideas systematically. So philosophy was really the backbone of how we developed scientific inquiry.
Are you satisfied, Tupac? Are you satisfied now?
Are they the same, or there's a distinction?
Good question. They're definitely related, but not the same. Philosophy is broader. It deals with fundamental questions about knowledge, reality, and existence, while the scientific method is a practical, structured approach to testing hypotheses about the natural system. So philosophy asks the big why questions, and the scientific method provides a process for getting answers.
Did you learn something today, Tupac? You see what I was saying now?
Of course, yeah, and I hope you see what I was saying too. I appreciate the gift. I hope you understand what I was saying. I'm not taking away what you were saying. I agree with what you're saying.
No, we said different things. You said science and philosophy work hand in hand, and I said no. Science is based on philosophy as its foundation. You can't have science without philosophy. It's the foundation. If you build a house without a foundation, you don't have a house. Science is the house. Philosophy is the foundation. That's what I was saying.
What the question I asked?
You asked all right, my claim is the foundation of science is philosophy. You don't have science if you don't have philosophy. It's a very foundation. One depends on the other, one doesn't. Science depends on philosophy. You asked the AI, is science based on philosophy as its foundation? The first answer that the AI gave you was yes, and then they explained it.
Now, what was my question? Do you remember?
I can't remember your question. What I remember is your claim that science and philosophy work hand in hand.
Yes, that's my claim. That was actually the claim.
But that's false. That's false.
Okay, hold on a second. 1 second. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Does science and philosophy works hand in hand, or do you need philosophy in order to come to any scientific conclusion?
That's a really interesting point. So you don't strictly need philosophy to do science. Science can run on empirical observation, experiments, and math. But philosophy really underpins science, especially when it comes to questioning the assumptions, defining concepts, and making sure we know what counts as good evidence. So they often work together, but one doesn't always strictly depend on the other.
Are you saying that science does not always depend on philosophy?
Yeah, exactly. Science can function independently in a lot of ways, especially once we have a solid method for testing hypotheses. But philosophy still plays a big role at the edges, like when we define what counts as a theory, or when we ask about the limits of what we can know. So they're distinct, but they enrich each other.
Or they intertwine with each other?
Yeah, exactly. They kind of feed into each other. Philosophy gives us the tools to think critically about what science is doing, while science grounds philosophical debates in evidence. So even though they're distinct fields, they're really intertwined in shaping how we understand the world.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was listening to the AI. The AI used words like tools, grounds, and underpins with reference to the nature of the relationship between science and philosophy. And science is the one that philosophy is the one that underpins science. Philosophy is the one that grounds science. And philosophy is the one that enables science to have the tools to come to its conclusions.
Yeah, but you don't need philosophy in order to practice science. That's what it basically is saying.
All right.
Science can be independent of philosophy.
Let's ask it that question. Is the scientific method independent of philosophy? Let's ask it that.
Or you should ask, can scientific method be independent of philosophy? How about that?
Yeah, ask it.
Okay. Can scientific method be independent of philosophy?
Yeah, that's a bit of a debated topic. In practice, the scientific method is often applied without explicitly referencing philosophy. But the underlying assumptions, like what counts as evidence, what a cause is, or what we mean by theory, those all have philosophical roots. So you can do the method without thinking about philosophy, but it still relies on those underlying philosophical concepts.
Okay, on the underlying assumptions, which is the philosophical elements I gave you earlier: uniformity of nature, causality, reliability of senses and memory, and I could say more. It relies on that's foundation, underlying assumptions in order for science to even be done. It's not saying anything different from what I'm saying. So you learned something today, Tupac, that science is based in philosophy, in that philosophy, or rather philosophers who were Christians, by the way, discovered the scientific method. That's a historical fact too. You can ask the chat GPT. Was it Christians who discovered the scientific method? Oh boy, that's fun stuff. But I'm gonna pull something up.
So, I mean, Christians and atheists, they're just a worldview. I mean, my main thing about people, brother, is not your worldview. It's about your character, how you perform as an individual on a day-to-day basis. For me, when I go into public, I don't care who is a Christian and who is not a Christian. I don't care who is a Muslim or who is a non-believer. I don't care. What I really care about is how you treat yourself and how you treat me in return. That's all I care about.
And I'm actually obliged to agree with that. I do agree with that. We should treat each other better. We should treat each other good. And I like what you said that Christian and atheism is a worldview. What I was trying to point out, Tupac, is that the scientific method makes sense in a worldview framework and worldview analysis. The reason why I would say this, the scientific method makes sense in the Christian worldview is because Christians believe that the universe was created and is governed by God, and hence we can expect regularity to a certain degree in the universe. The other perspective, the atheistic perspective, if you are saying that God does not exist, I'm not saying that you're saying that, but if you were, and there is no God, then there is no reason to believe that the universe is governed by anything else other than chance and chaos. And that is not consistent with the scientific method, because you'd be wondering, are things going to change when I'm doing this experiment?
Yeah, so I mean, all I'm saying is that I don't have any evidence of that claim that it must be a God, right? That make all of this happening, right? Because if I'm gonna say it must be a God, then I should be able to present that God. I should be able to give some kind of empirical evidence as to what that God is. However, we don't have any kind of evidence. We're only making claims that it must be, or it should be, or whatever it is that there is a God.
You're committing another fallacy called the category error. If someone came to you, Tupac, and said to you, you know what, I'm going to use you because this might be sensitive issue. If someone went up to a man and says to the man, "Prove to me that you are a woman. Prove to me you're a woman." Would you say to me, would you agree with me that if the man said this in response to this other guy, "I never claimed to be a woman, so I don't have to prove to you that I'm a woman," would you say that is a very logical response?
Yeah, because the person never make any argument about you being a woman.
Right. All right. Would you say that this is a logical and rational question for a Christian? I am the Christian, and I believe in the existence of God, and I have empirical evidence to show that God exists. Would you say that this is a rational question to ask the question? Where is the empirical evidence, Christian man?
Yeah. So you created a fallacy right now. So if I come up to if I go up to a man right now, or anyone with beard on my face and muscular voice, I say, "Hey, listen, I just finished seeing my period last month. Right? You think that argument? You think that argument would hold any substantial evidence that I am a woman?
No, because that is an empirical claim that has no empirical evidence. Okay.
So that is where that is what I'm saying. If I go up to you and you can actually, see who I am, and I said, "Hey, listen, I just see my period last month," you're gonna say, it is fair enough for you to say, "Hey, listen, let me see what you see that thing out of," because we know for sure that kind of thing don't appears to forward through a man like through males. So it's the same thing. If a woman come up to me and tell me, "Hey, look, we have just seen a monthly cycle last month," I'm not gonna tell them to, "Hey, listen, show me that you're a woman," because that is evident.
Okay, so here's the point I was trying to make. Christians have never, throughout the centuries, claimed that God is an empirical entity. which means that
Yes, I do.
to ask, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. I, as a Christian, am not defending the claim that God is an empirical entity. So if you ask me to give you empirical evidence for God, you are committing a category error. Now,
No. I wouldn't commit in one when I'm asking for evidence.
no, wait. You have to qualify the word evidence. You're asking for empirical evidence. Empirical evidence. That's what you're asking for. Now,
Yes.
that what I'm saying is that is a category error. You're asking for physical evidence for a non-physical entity. However, when I ask you as an individual to show me the empirical evidence that life came from non-life, which is an empirical claim, and you don't have evidence for that empirical claim, but you believe it anyway, which one of us here is being inconsistent with their worldview?
Yeah. So I mean, none of us would be inconsistent. Reason being is, I mean, I think you personally would be inconsistent.
All right. Where's the evidence for not life coming from non-life? Where is it?
Yeah. So the evidence is that we see everything that has to do with life, right? This is just an inductive reasoning, right?
From peer review.
Okay. So yes, I'm gonna show you. So proteins, are proteins alive?
Yeah, proteins are alive.
Incorrect.
Proteins are wait. Proteins are non-living material.
Yes, proteins are not alive. And
Wait.
And,
Wait, hold on. I think we are moving away here.
No, we're not moving away. I'm just
wait.
You're asking for evidence of the life, so I'm gonna show it to you.
Wait. Here is my demand for the evidence. I want you to give me a quote from a qualified scientist who says that the gap between chemistry and biology has been filled and shown to be so in a lab. That's what I want you to show me, because we're talking about things that are irrelevant here. The claim is life came from non-life, in that from chemical we have biology. From chemistry we have biology. In that the gap has been closed. That's the claim. The claim is not proteins exist and then out of proteins we have life. The claim is from chemistry we have biology, and the gap has been shown to be closed in a lab or in evidence. Where is that?
Yeah, so because we are who we are talking about, right? It is not plausible for us to say, yes, we have the machine and we have the product at hand to show you exactly how the machine works.
So you have no evidence then?
So again, we are saying that when you look at a cell, the smallest unit of life, we know for sure that a cell comprises of amino acid, comprised of lipid, RNA, DNA, it comprises of protein, and all of these things that create a cell. Without these things, a cell cannot be a cell. And we know these things are not alive. Therefore, we have to come to the conclusion that all cells were created, or were formed rather, from these non-living biochemistry.
Okay, so the evidence is drawing an inference from something that you see, but without being able to show the empirical evidence for the inference.
Yeah, because to show that thing, we would have to be the one who actually create that thing to show how it happens.
So back to my original claim, you have no empirical evidence to show the inference that you have drawn from looking at cells.
Yes. No, we are the empirical evidence. Human being, all living things are the empirical evidence.
All right. Let me try to bring this down to what I'm talking about. Are you aware of the claim that abiogenesis is in reference to a self-replicating cell from RNA, not DNA?
Yeah, that is an ongoing debate about RNA and also DNA.
It's not an ongoing debate. They have decided that it's not DNA. It has to be RNA because RNA has a metabolism that is stronger than DNA to sustain itself for a period of time. It's RNA.
I actually agree that. That's why I said to you from the day one that RNA DNA, lipids, amino acids, and even protein. Those are the building block for a cell. I agree with that.
All right. So here is what needs to be proven, but has not been proven. Gerald Joyce, molecular biologist, he says no self-replicating RNA system has been demonstrated under prebiotic conditions. The RNA world hypothesis is attractive, but the stability and assembly problems are insurmountable without additional mechanisms we have no evidence for. The origin remains a deep mystery. In the scientific community, there is no empirical evidence to support the hypothesis that life came from non-life. It is a belief. It's not backed by evidence.
Yeah, we are the empirical evidence of abiogenesis.
All right. I want you to show me. All right, where the foundation. I want you to show me, since you say that we are the evidence. Show me where a human being. Wait, sorry. Let me ask the question. Is a human being a living thing?
Yes.
When a human being comes together with another human being who is another living thing and they produce a living thing, is that an example of life coming from life?
That is biogenesis. Also,
all right.
That is biogenesis, and also the sperm and the egg is actually a living thing. So whether you put them together or not, they still are a living thing.
All right. So according to reality, what we see every single day is biogenesis coming from biogenesis, right? Biogenesis.
Yeah, I agree. Biogenesis is actually what we see happening day to day. But
all right, so
abiogenesis is not what we see. Abiogenesis is the beginning.
All right, so perfect. So abiogenesis is not what we see. What we see is biogenesis. So yes. Where is the evidence for abiogenesis?
Yeah, so abiogenesis would be the beginning of what biogenesis is.
All so right.
Abiogenesis would more likely be the fusion that cause biogenesis. Like you have a fire that you ignite, and that one fire that you start, go over there and it catch another fire. You go over there and it catch another fire. And you go over there and it catch another fire. But you will never see the first fire that was caught in the beginning.
All right, perfect. We're getting it. So, Tupac, you have not seen it happen. No scientist has seen it happen, but you believe it, right?
Yeah, I have substantial evidence to hold that to be true, yes.
You have substantial evidence. Okay, so is the evidence something you have seen?
So yes, the evidence is something that I've seen, yes.
Okay, so you have seen abiogenesis.
I said the evidence is something that I've seen. We are the evidence.
When you say we are the evidence, after just saying and conceding that we are examples of biogenesis, when you say that we are actually the evidence of abiogenesis, you have a big problem there because you can't have them both ways.
No. Abiogenesis is the beginning
all right.
of what biogenesis is.
So which scientist has observed the beginning?
No scientist. That's what I'm saying. No
so it's
scientist.
a belief.
Yeah, I listen. We have substantial evidence to hold it to be true.
All right.
All living things come from non-living biochemistry. And you can even Google it and AI it or whatever you
actually,
want to do.
what I see every day is the living coming from the living. Your claim is ultimately the living came from the non-living, but you have no evidence to show for that. If you do, what is it?
All right. So again, what is life? What are the characteristics of life?
You said them earlier. You made reference to them earlier. RNA, DNA, lipids, proteins.
I have never said these are the characteristics of life. Life has about 5 different characteristics in order for it to be alive. And I think is metabolize, respond to stimuli and grow, and I think the last stage is unalive.
Okay, I think I'm asking you the wrong question. Are you appealing to the RNA hypothesis? The RNA world hypothesis. Some people call it the prebiotic soup theory.
Yeah, like I said, it's an ongoing theory.
All right, so that's what you're appealing to, right?
Sorry, it's an ongoing debate, which I can agree with some part, and whatever the scientists disagree with, I also disagree with it because they are the scientists, I am not.
All right. So, is that what you are appealing to when you say that abiogenesis took place?
Yeah. So
All right.
that is one. That is one of it. The primordial soup. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, the RNA world hypothesis. Some people call it the prebiotic soup hypothesis. What I am saying is, if that is what you are appealing to, there is no, let me say it again, absolutely no peer review paper that has shown that this hypothesis has been shown to be true. A hypothesis is an assumption that scientists make, and then when they have proven the hypothesis through experimentation, it becomes a scientifically held view or a model.
What an hypothesis made on? What it based on? What a hypothesis based on?
An hypothesis is based on observation.
Okay, great.
And the hypothesis, in order for it to become something that is held as a model in the scientific community, it has to be proven. But what happens in the scientific community, and according to atheists I've spoken to, you guys speak as though the experiment of the hypothesis has been done and the experiment has proven the hypothesis to be true. That's how you guys speak.
What did they use to observe? What did they observe to come to that hypothesis?
They try to replicate the RNA world, the prebiotic conditions. They try to replicate the prebiotic conditions that they think were there in order for life to come into existence or life to emerge. And every single,
did they get any result?
That was just about to get to that. Every single time they replicate the prebiotic conditions and they put some form of RNA substance in the prebiotic condition and they zap it with some electricity or electric shock, it always fails. The RNA substance is shown to not have a metabolism strong enough to have self-replication, which means that
the Miller experiment?
I'm referring to that, and that is still.
So you're absolutely wrong.
I'm absolutely wrong. Okay. So this is what's going to happen. My claim is that they have not proven it, and here's my verification for my claim. Eugene Koonin, evolutionary biologist, he says the probability of the origin of life by chance is astronomically low, effectively zero. Even simple replicators require impossible conditions under standard models. We have no idea how it happened without exotic physics or multiverses. So my claim is you guys have no evidence. Your claim is you have. So which scientist can you read from right now to show that I'm wrong and you're right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm appealing to the Miller experiment, right? That they, I think it was in 1971, I think it was. Not sure, but I think it was in that time. Right? They carried out an experiment, with certain infusion, with certain biochemical infusion. And based on that infusion, it shows that life can come from non-living biochemical, which is amino acid, right? Which is protein, which is lipid, RNA. It was demonstrated. And the simple analogy or a simple argument I gave to you before about a cell, the smallest unit of a life, when you break a cell down, you can observe protein. You can take that protein, put one side.
There we go. Someone in the chat just said they searched it and it's not proven. What I hear everything you're saying, Tupac, and I agree with you that this experiment actually took place. But what I'm trying to point out, and you're talking about something different from what I'm talking about. What I'm trying to point out is this. The claim is that there was a living cell, a single cell organism. And out of that single cell organism, all life emerged, all life. through evolutionary process, natural selection, etc. Did I say anything wrong just now?
Well,
From a single cell.
Yeah, that's what the scientists are saying.
So, from a single cell came all life. From a single cell. This cell has to self-replicate. Am I wrong? Am I right?
That's correct. That's what a cell does.
All right. That's what I've read. Okay. So this cell has to self-replicate, and this cell has to also possess a metabolism strong enough to produce the energy to self-replicate. Am I wrong or am I right?
That's correct.
All right.
That's what a cell does.
All right. So this is what I'm saying has not been proven and has not been shown.
Okay, so you're saying that a cell does not replicate?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that the hypothesis that a single cell RNA, I don't have the right nomenclature. A single cell RNA has not been proven in a lab or by any experiment to self-replicate. It has not been shown. That's what I'm saying. And here's a big problem. You see, if that has not been shown, the claim that we all came from a single cell that self-replicated and produced all living things, that claim itself, because it has not been proven in a lab, is a belief and not a fact. That's my claim.
Yeah. Within the human body, we possess 37 trillion cells, 78 organs, 11 systems. And every system within the human body has to start from a cell.
Yes.
There's no system in the body that can just become a system without being a cell. A cell is the smallest unit of life. All right, and we know for sure that multiples of cells combine together to create what we call tissues. Tissues create organs. Organs create systems. And that is, and we look at a human being, we're nothing but a system that's going around, acting and behaving consciously or subconsciously and consciously. However, we are nothing but a bunch of cells combined together to form a system. That is what we are today, right now.
You're moving the cart in front of the horse again, my friend. You see, everything you just said is true after the self-replicating cell in the prebiotic soup takes place. Everything you just said happens after that one single cell in the prebiotic conditions self-replicated and produced all life. Everything you just said is after that. What I want you to do is show me the evidence from any scientist where that hypothesis, where they used RNA to self-replicate itself and it produces other cells, has taken place. Because what I have in front of me from the peer review, from people who are more qualified than I, another guy, Gerald Boyce, molecular biologist, the origin of life is still a mystery, but we expect chemistry will one day explain it. Self-replicating RNA has been demonstrated in the lab under controlled conditions, but prebiotic environments lack the purity and the catalysts needed. The antiquity of RNA-based evolution is intriguing, but the gap from chemistry to biology remains. Now, what I just read there was a hope that one day we'll figure it out. A hope. That sounds like faith to me. Y'all don't have that evidence yet.
Well, guess what, man? I understand where you're coming from, man, and I respect that as well. And I have to say, you're a very intelligent young man, and keep up the good work. You seem like you're doing a work that requires for humanity. You know what I mean? And whether you're a believer or not, it is always a good thing to sustain life on earth. And I am a humanist, where I always look for the better meant within people and myself. So with all that being said, my brother, respect for the conversation. I didn't even see that the time gone so far, man, but we have to go get ready for work, so pick up yourself. One love as a brother.
Have a good night at work, my friend. Thanks for coming.
Man, respect for the reason and the manners, yeah?
Yeah, man. All right, guys, everybody on YouTube, that was a big jump from my original topic, which is about slavery. But I just wanted to point out when these things come up, you know, atheists talk about evidence all the time. Atheists talk about, hey, you guys have no evidence. You guys have no evidence for your beliefs. And I'm like, this is just the tip of the iceberg, by the way. This is the tip of the iceberg. I pointed out that you guys have no evidence to show that life came from non-life from prebiotic conditions, and that the gap from chemistry to biology still remains, and there is no evidence for the hypothesis. But you guys still believe it. And you come to us and say that we believe things without evidence, empirical evidence at that, and say we're delusional, we're crazy, we're stupid because we believe things without empirical evidence. You guys have no empirical evidence for life coming from non-life, but you still believe it. So you're in the same camp as the people you love to call delusional, because you believe something that has no empirical evidence to support it. And we're the delusional ones. We're not making any empirical claims about God. God is a metaphysical claim, a transcendental being, a spiritual being. So when you ask, where is the empirical evidence for God? You are committing a category error, which is a logical fallacy. So if all you can do is commit a logical fallacy in your reasoning, then it just goes to show what your worldview gives you. Illogical reasoning. But we weren't supposed to even be talking about this stuff. We're supposed to be talking about slavery. And I've been on here long enough, guys. I'm going to see how long I've been on here. Damn, 1 hour and 46 minutes. I'm going to end this video. I'm going to end this video. Everybody on YouTube, I'm going to end this video in a sec. I just want to make the claim again. It has always been the case, from the earliest centuries onward, Christians believe that slavery is an evil. It came in the world as a result of the fall and because of sin. And as a result, Christians have always tried to minimize and reduce the evil of slavery. This is a historical fact. This is backed by documentable evidence from the writings of the church fathers, from the writings of the church councils, from the evidence of history from monasteries where abbots and monks would go and buy slaves from abusive masters and then provide a means for the slave to be independent and then let the slave go free, because that's what Christianity is. You love your neighbor as you love yourself, and slavery is an evil. And it irritates me when non-believers and atheists and people who, you know, guys, I do a lot of reading. And I often meet up with people who don't really do a lot of reading. They don't really know what they're talking about. And they like to speak out of their ignorance. And if they can say what they say with as much emotion as possible, it somehow becomes true. I don't give a damn how you feel. What's the evidence for your claim? What's the documentation for your claim that Christians are evil, slavery-believing maniacs? What's the evidence? There's none. Because you have an axe to grind. You have a particular motive, which is not to learn the truth about Christianity, but rather to try and deconstruct other Christians from their faith into believing the nonsense that we all came from apes. Man, you know what? This was not even supposed to be the topic, but it became the topic of, you know, evolution and all of that. But anyways, I'm done. I'm gonna go do my cardio because I try to run 5K 5 days a week and rest on Saturday and Sunday. And it's time to go do some running. So I'm going to go do some running, clear my mind. And then when I'm done, I'm going to come back home, take a shower, and do some more reading because there's a lot to read. Anyways, thank you guys for coming on TikTok. Give me a follow, everybody. THO. You said I just searched it. It's not proven. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for looking these things up. What I want you to do for me, THO, is look up these things, and I want you to copy and paste your results and put them in a Word document. so that whenever this topic comes up, you can read what you found and show the atheist or the non-believer that they actually have no evidence for their claim that life came from non-life. It's a belief. And as I said, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that you're probably going to find out by searching. All right? God bless you all. Thanks for coming. Until next time.
Good.
All right. Everybody on YouTube, thanks for watching. Thanks for coming. We are going to I'm going to be back next time with another video eventually. God bless you all. Thanks for watching.